Hi, and welcome. Good morning or afternoon, Ben. Ben is actually, this is Ben Aaronovich, and he is here from England. And I'm Selena from Andy's Book Stop in America, in Worcester, Massachusetts. And first of all, thank you for coming and talking to us today. And for readers who are unfamiliar with your work, how would you describe what you write? And what can readers expect from your newest book? And what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
Yeah, okay. Well, that filled up the half an hour fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I don't call. I mean, I know what from a strictly formulistic kind of genre point of view it is, right? Well, it's what's called urban fantasy, in that it's basically a mix of crime and fantasy, as opposed to crime and horror, which is like dark urban fantasy and crime and I don't know. Anyway, it's like, but I just wrote. I'm just too lazy. I like crime and I like fantasy and science fiction, and I was just too lazy to write a book, of each. So I just wrote one where I could do all the stuff I liked in one book. It could have been a crime and science fiction. It was a science fiction crime book, but I realized that was more research. So I did the fantasy one because it was less research. Or so I thought at the time. Anyway, so it's crime science fiction. What was the rest of the question? That was quite a long question.
It was a long question, but you actually just kind of got me onto another one. It's about the research. Did you do much research?
Well, I did a lot of research into the history of London and into police procedural, because the more realistic you make the kind of mundane aspects of the story, in this kind of story, I felt that the more realistic you made and the more real and the more truthful you made the mundane aspects, the easier it is to sell the magic. So if you have people that everyone recognizes as being real people in a real situation, and then someone starts doing spells, it's like, oh yeah, well, obviously spells. Normal part of policing in London, that is, yeah.
Okay, and what can readers expect from your newest book?
Which one? I can't. I've lost track.
How many books do you write at once?
I've got a short story collection out on ebook that we rushed out because everyone was depressed. So we got the short stories out in hope to cheer people up a bit, especially my agent, who I think was a bit depressed at being stuck at home. And he's a very gregarious guy. But I've got a novella coming out in March on Subpress and in an ebook. And so and the last one was False Value, which came out last February. God, that was cold. That seems like a lot. Does that not seem like a lifetime ago when you could go outside and gamble and meet people and have
It does, doesn't it? So, okay, why don't we talk about your favorite book that you just written? Okay, what's your favorite book?
The last book is always my favorite book.
Okay, all right.
For some reason, people say, "What's your favorite book?" It's always the one I last with. Possibly because I'm no longer writing it and don't have to worry about it ever again.
No, don't do that.
It hasn't got any reviews yet. It's brilliant. I don't have to worry about it. It's the latest one, the one that's coming out in March, is called What Abigail Did That Summer. And it's about Peter Grant, who's the main character for the other books, is his cousin Abigail, and basically what she was up to while he was out of town one summer. There's a book where Peter goes to basically to Herefordshire, which means nothing to you, but it basically goes to the sticks and solves the case there, leaving London behind. And it's about what she got up to while he was out in the sticks, and I don't know. Abigail was one of those characters that I created for like 2 lines in one of the books, and then she just refused to leave. Just refused to leave the building. It's like, get out of the story. No, I like this story. I want to be in it. And really, I find with those characters, eventually I have to write them a novella or a short story or something to shut them up, just to keep them quiet, because it doesn't work. It's like the Dane Geld. You keep paying the Dane Geld, and the Danes keep coming back for more geld. It's like, there's a flaw in that plan somewhere, I think.
So what was the inspiration for that book?
Well, for that book, because bloody Abigail wouldn't shut up and said, "I want a story. I want a story." No, the inspiration was the idea of what happens to houses if because in London, like probably the same happens in large big cities in like San Francisco and New York, and what you get is they've got a lot of speculative house building. So people, very very rich people, are buying up the nice houses in the nice bits of town, and then they're not living in them. They're basically just kind of like doing things to them, and I thought, what if a house had spent a lot of time being lived in by kind of happy families, and now it's being neglected? What might happen if that happens? I can't really say anymore without giving away the plot, but let's just say it's not happy. It takes steps. It takes steps.
Okay. So, what was the biggest challenge in writing and putting out that book? What's the
Well,
name?
the biggest challenge is that Abigail is 13. That's the biggest challenge for me. I had to learn a whole new language. Never mind. You know, gosh, it's like it's very annoying. Like at some point during my life, right? I speak with a London accent. I have a London accent, right? And I can do Cockney, okay? Because my dad's from the East End, and like I'm a legitimate Cockney, and sort of and. North London Cockney. This means nothing to anyone in America, by the way. But suddenly, about 10, 15 years ago, all the teenagers in London went, nah, we're going to come up with a completely different new accent. And now I had to learn it, and it's just a pain. And like all teen accents, because they change it every 5 minutes. So whatever you do, you're like, it's like everything's like totally groovy, man. I'm like a cool cat. You sound like completely out of date. Whatever you do, you can't win. Because by the time the book has come out, they've changed their accent and go, oh no, that's so last year, Daddy-O, you know. Although certain things seem to stay. Cool is always cool for some reason. Cool never stops. And wicked stays good. And bad stays good. I don't know why. Just certain phrases just seem to stick. But that was the hardest thing. And she turned out much angrier than I was expecting. I thought she was quite a jolly young woman, but no, lots of issues.
So when you write, do you do the characters kind of tell you what's going to happen in the book?
Well, some characters do. Some characters don't gel, and they're kind of like floppy, lifeless corpses, and you kind of like push them around the plot, and they go, you know, and you think, oh, for God's sake, I need you for the plot, but you're really just dragging me down. Often, either they come alive and you have to go back and start rewriting them from the beginning again, or you just end up kind of quietly like shuttling their part down, or just kicking them off the story altogether. And then some characters come in right. Peter Grant, the main character of all the books, he just turned up. I mean, I was thinking I'm going to write this book, and then he just said, "Hello, I'm your main character. You can relax now. It's going to be brilliant. I'm in charge." And that was it. And I had his voice, and he just went. And you know, and that's freaking, as a writer, that's like the equivalent of a multiple orgasm. It's just the best thing that could possibly happen to you. All your problems are basically solved. It's just hard work. You know, it's just like slogging out the words at that point, because you've got a voice that will sell the book. And so Peter Grant just came and said, I'm so charismatic, look at me. And you know, and so you do that, and that's brilliant. But the upside of that is like they will go, nah, I'm not doing that. And you go, you have to do that, otherwise the plot doesn't work well. Tough.
Yeah. So of all these characters, which one did you love or hate the most when writing, and why?
Well, I gotta say I love Peter Grant, because he's made me quite a wealthy person. You can't argue with someone. I like Peter Grant. I like all of them. I like even the ones that people don't like. I like the characters that people don't like. I like Zach. Nobody likes Zach. No, none of my readers like Zach. They go, why do you keep putting Zach in the story? I don't like him. But there's something about him that I quite like, so you can't get rid of him. I love Abigail. I love Toby Winter, who's the German equivalent, the German character from the other novella. I like Nightingale, because he's just so stiff upper lip. It's just like a joy to write. I just love writing that kind of very repressed English stiff upper lip from a previous generation. To misquote somebody, a much better writer than me, he's freeze dried from an earlier epoch just for this kind of thing. He's just like brilliant. And and then Leslie, my villains, I love Leslie as my villain, and things like that. I mean, they're all great characters, and I miss them when I'm not writing them. Stephen King in his book on writing says you go on holiday and you spend the first day going, oh, I don't have to write. The second day going, oh, maybe I should. And then by the third day, you actively resent the fact that you can't write because you're missing your characters. And of course, real people that you're involved in relationships get really ticked off with you because you don't want to be with them. You want to be with these imaginary characters, and they go, oh, no, you don't love me. You love your characters more. You go, yeah, sad but true.
Okay. So what else can we expect from you in the future?
Well, I don't want to say more of the same. I'm working on another Peter Grant book, so that's book 10 of the Peter. I think it's book 10. It's either book 9 or book 10. I've lost track. And there's more novellas. There's a Reynolds novella. And Reynolds is the FBI character from the earlier books, and then there's going to be a Nightingale historical, which is going to be set in New York in the 1920s. Just because I've watched far too many films set in New York in the 1920s, basically, and listened to way, way too much Jeeves and Wooster. I was sitting there reading Jeeves and Wooster, and I suddenly realised that Peter Grant has exactly the same speech pattern as Bertie Wooster, except he's like a Cockney. And I thought, well, in that case, I might as well just posh it up a little bit, and I can do a Jeeves and Wooster story set in New York with Nightingale kind of playing the Jeeves character. So that's kind of fun. I'm doing that. That's enough. I don't know anything else. I mean, there's always television projects in the works, but television projects are always in the works. I don't believe in television. I think I've decided television doesn't really exist. I mean, not my television. There's nothing to do with me. So and there's projects, and we're trying to get some merch together because people say, why are there no t-shirts? Okay, like, do you really want t-shirts? Okay, yes, we really want t-shirts. So we're trying to organize some which is much harder than you think. I bet George Lucas didn't have to work this hard to get some t-shirts out, lunchboxes, So there's that, and they're all trying to survive the coronavirus, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're trying to support, I'm trying to support bookshops and libraries and things because I don't want them to be not there when we all emerge from our bunkers, So good luck, by the way. And
thanks.
We're supporting this. I'm supporting this independent bookshop sales chain as an alternative to Amazon. Much as I love Amazon and its convenience, I think we do need to have it just for the sake of not having monopolies. Monopolies are never good. So I think, it's not anything particularly against Amazon particularly, except we just shouldn't have monopolies. We should have alternative routes to what we want. We shouldn't have just like one overall arching thing. And so therefore, otherwise we might as well go live in Soviet Russia, comrade. All right. Except, it'll be cheaper and there'll be more butter. But I don't know where that's come from at all, really. I was obviously watching something which had a lot of Russia in it recently. So yeah, I'm doing that. I'm a writer. I've got a very boring life. I write. What you see me here, this is where I am 90% of the time. If I'm not here, I'm eating usually. If I'm not eating, I don't have a life really. And at the moment, nobody has it doesn't actually. Coronavirus actually didn't make that much difference. I just don't go out for dinner as much as I used to.
So, what's your favorite part of being a writer? On the whole writing and publishing process?
God, no, my favorite part of being a writer is the fact that when I was younger and I did something wrong and I came up with like an excuse for my mother as to why the bike was stuck up a tree or something, and the part of my brain that used to come up with the excuse is exactly the same part of my brain that I use for writing. And I just love the fact that I get paid to lie. It's just brilliant. I just wake up every morning going, suckers! I get paid to lie, yay! And it's like if you've managed to make something you love doing, because I'd probably be writing anyway. I'd be all over AO3 if I wasn't getting paid to publish. So it's like I would be doing that anyway. So but I get paid for it. So that's the best thing about being a writer, is you get paid for doing something you love. Ask any writer, if you drill down, that's what you will find, except for the pretentious ones. But you because they're lying.
And what do you think has been your greatest lesson in the journey so far?
My greatest lesson is you have to write the book that you want to write. You can't anticipate. Don't anticipate your audience. Don't anticipate your publisher. Don't anticipate your editor. You never know what they're going to say. And you can just really paralyze yourself by trying to anticipate what's going to happen next. You write the book you want to write. Then later, people will come along and go, no, it's too long, it's too short, the characters are too French, whatever. But let them tell you. Don't anticipate what they're going to say. Find your own voice. You won't start with your own voice. My voice to start with was a weird mixture of Ian M. Banks and William Gibson, and with a bit of Herbert thrown in. It's like that's your voice is going to be like that. Oh, and a dash of Christopher Stasheff just for that. And this is like, you will do this. Eventually, you will find your own voice will come out whether you want it to or not. I would quite like to have a different voice. Thank you. Slightly less funny, like less irrelevant one. But no, I've got the voice I've got now, and I can with effort kind of bend it gently in one direction. But you will find your own voice, write the story you want to write, and remember, there is no right to be published. Okay, there's no. Well, actually, a lie. There should be a right to be published, and you can get it published now anywhere. But you can publish yourself. There is no right to be read. People won't necessarily read the things you've written, but that shouldn't stop you from writing the thing you want to write.
Mm-hmm. And what do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process, and how do you overcome that?
Getting the words done. I'm very slow, so you're just grinding out like 500 words a day. And the daunting fact that when you start, you're kind of like 96,000 words away from the end, and you kind of write 500 words. You think, well, I'm exhausted. And you think, oh God, there's another 96,000 words to go. That's the most exhausting. That's the tiring bit, I find, about writing a novel. It's the marathon nature of it. You just keep going, you just keep going, you just keep going. It's not and the fact that you don't have a party piece, like if you're a musician or an actor or something, you can go to a party and declaim something or play something or sing something. When you're a writer and you want to impress people, you go, well, come back in 6 months and I'll have written you a short story,
Right. So what's your favorite adventure during your writing career?
You don't have adventures in writing careers. Adventures don't happen. Look, this is my life. You can see it behind me. That's it. I read books. Other people have adventures, which is fine. I don't like danger. I'm not one of those people that has this strange urge to wrestle foxes or something. I've done things like horse safari for research and stuff. I've done things like I went on a horse safari once, and I figured, I want the animals to be preserved. And I want their wildlife to be preserved. I just don't want to go near them because they're scary, especially elephants. Terrifying. And adventures. I don't have adventures. I like going to Germany. I like going to Australia. I like the chance to travel, which I didn't have before. I like going to new places. I'm a very terrible traveler, so I'm kind of like, I don't want to go. Oh. And I'm a huge fat guy, so I get into even in the business class, I kind of sit in an aeroplane like jelly in a mold. So like anything over 5 hours, and I'm like, I get out the other end and I kind of crawl off the plane. Which is like, if you go to Australia and it's like 24 hours, you get off the plane and they go, these very bright kind of Australian people are going, have you got anything to declare? Yes, I'm dead. Carry me to a hospital.
So what piece of advice would you want to give to other writers?
Don't make people read your book if they don't want to, because it causes you to lose friends, especially your parents. Don't make your parents read your books because they might lie and tell you they liked it when they didn't. And so what's the point? So you've just alienated your parents and you haven't got any useful feedback from it. And you really don't want truth from your parents anyway. So just don't give your books to your parents, okay? And anyway, if you're really unlucky, they'll blame you. They'll say you're pasting your characters on them and then complain that you misrepresented them, and everyone will now think they're terrible. It's like you can get a very Jewish mother thing with that. It's like, but like I said, write the thing you want to write. Sit down, be realistic about your goals, work out what works for you. Find what works for you and then do that. Don't let other people tell you what to do. And don't overuse adjectives. And try to avoid using anything other than said or asked. And especially adjectives after said and asked. You know, people said breezily. You can do it occasionally, but you got to do it like once every like 5,000 words. You can have an adjective after a speech pattern. Trust me on this. You'll thank me.
Okay. And are there any groups or clubs or organizations that you'd recommend to other writers?
Well, I find on Tumblr, I find writing with color very useful for information about people that aren't me, which is handy because quite a large number of people are not like me. Most of the world, in fact. So, and I like to have a very wide scope, so you know it's always useful. No, the internet, God, I remember I wrote for about 25 years without the internet, and I love the internet. I love being able just to look up a word. I love going like, well, what's the name of the road in a particular city that goes off this road? You just go and you find it. You just go, oh, that's what it looks like, fine. I love all of that. I love all the fact, you know, you can go down rabbit holes and disappear into the internet for like 10 or 15 years. Well, you know, oh, steam power. Let's go into the history of steam power. I watch a 50-hour documentary on steam power. You know, I mean, and that kind of thing can happen. But it just makes researching so much easier. You still have to go out and kind of smell the streets a bit, but you know, I just love the internet. I love the internet.
Great. Okay. Now I wanted to ask you about your writing space and basically what your writing space looks like, and when you're that's it, and basically what things you need to have around you when you're writing. Do you need music? Do you need it quiet? Do you have any furry animals with you to hinder you, or to help you? And do you need any favorite foods or drinks that you have to have with you?
There is one thing that I recommend for all writers should do if you're serious about writing. Is one, you should invest in a decent chair. Very important. You may be 25 now and flexible, but if your career goes on for any length of time and you're of any size, you want a decent chair. And for example, I sit in this chair that I'm sitting now, which is like the 5th chair I've had. So I replace them every 5 years or so. I spend money on my writing chair, and I don't get a bad back from sitting on my writing chair. The only time I ever get a bad back is when I've had to spend a lot of time, like at a festival or something, where I've sat in horrible chairs. And when you consider that I spend 8 to 10 hours per day sitting in front of a computer. The other thing is health and safety standards, screen in front of you, keyboard there, keyboard supports, take breaks every 30 minutes. I know this is really boring stuff, but this is actually very important stuff. If you want to not be 50 and crippled, seriously, you have to do this stuff, okay? You want some distractions. You don't want too much. I like coffee. I have an espresso machine. I drink ridiculous amounts of coffee. Other people don't do tea. Find what works for you. Find what work pattern works for you. I do like work in like 20-minute bursts. So I go, yeah, if you get 20-minute bursts and you do 100 words, you can play 20 minutes of Civilization 6. That's kind of like the bribery thing that I have going with myself. And you can do things like that. Or I like to have lots of reference books. I have shelves and shelves of reference books, some of which I even occasionally reference. They're very useful. Sometimes if you need to do research, go out and sit somewhere else with your book, take the research book out with you and a felt tip pen or the Kindle if you've got it on your Kindle or something. Take it out to a cafe and sit in the cafe and do some reading in the cafe, because the temptation when you're in front of your computer is to feel that you should be writing. Oh, always carry a notebook everywhere, right? Or if you're modern generation, if you're one of the kids, right, you can always put it on your phone. But personally, I prefer a notebook because I've got big fat thumbs, you see, so I'm really slow. So carry a notebook, because you will always come up with an idea at the most inconvenient time. The most ideas I've ever come up with always come at exactly the same time. I have just turned off my computer and I'm going out the door. I will have an idea, and do I go back and turn on my computer and write it down and be late for whatever it was I was going out the door for? No, you carry a notebook, and I'm in the lift making notes in my notebook, because there is nothing worse than knowing you had a really good idea but not being able to remember what it was. And the same counts if you wake up and go, that's a really good idea. Write it down, because you will not remember the next morning. Guarantee it. All you will remember is that you had a good idea. It's so frustrating. And sometimes it's not a good idea, but that's okay. At least you know that when you wake up in the morning. So those are my key writing advice. I personally like to sit in one place. I like to sit in what's actually my bedroom, because I live in quite a small flat with my son, and so therefore I only have my bedroom. But it makes my commute really short. So I only roll out of bed, sit down, start writing. Yay! Well, I'll get coffee first, obviously. So I that's what I like. I like that. I keep a track of my 20-minute bursts. I keep a jotter for jotting. Oh, can I show you that? For jotting things down on. So like it's just pages and pages of me jotting things down on it and keeping track of things. And it gets covered in coffee, of course, because I use it as a coffee rest and I eat food off it and stuff. So some people, that would drive them mad. Some people cannot work like that. Some people have to have like desks, like ridiculously neat desks, and some people have to be super sloppy. And good lighting when you're writing, if it's dark. I say that because my light just went out. I have a daylight thing and it's gone off for 30-minute thing. It turns itself off after 30 minutes. Yeah, why do you turn yourself off? I can't. Apparently, there's a setting where it won't, but I can't find it. And so things like that are all very useful for writing. But in the end, you will find what works for you. And once you've found what works for you, use what works for you. And if you find something that supersedes the thing that worked for you before, and you find it works even better, use that. So the only thing I'm absolutely certain about is the chair. I've boiled it down now to the chair. Get a good
Well, thank you. That's great advice. Well, I guess our time is up. So thank you so much for
and good luck. I know you're having a bit tough time at the moment, but good luck with everything. And
yeah.
stay safe, basically.
Thank you. Yeah, we could. Let me just say one thing to plug Eddie's Bookstop of Worcester. You can buy all of Ben's books at our store,
Yes,
and yes, and for all of you,
the first one.
yes, you can buy all of his books there.
Yes.
And our phone number is area code 508-796-5613. And you can actually email us at orders@anniesbooksworcester.com, and we will mail you the books. And we do curbside pickup and all that kind of stuff during this COVID era. And anyways, thanks so much for joining us, Ben, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I guess we will hopefully be talking to you some other time, and if you ever get to the Boston area.
Well, I would like to go to America, but I was going to do WindyCon, and we had a whole thing. I was going to be, because I've never been to Chicago, so I thought, I'm going to see Chicago, and then all our plans have gone out the window. So mind you, I'm getting a lot of work done. So I'm swinging and roundabouts, as they say. So yeah, so stay safe, and remember, support your local independent bookshop. You might need it later.